Good morning, early game crew. Busy weekend in sports. We have all of it going up until 9 o'clock. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. They are the South Carolina Gamecocks baseball program, and they're still coachless.
I must say, I called it. I said, listen, when it didn't happen on Thursday, I was like, I don't think it's going to happen on Friday, and nothing's going to happen over the weekend. And that was with no intel or reporting. That was just a hunch.
Vibes.
That was just vibes.
Correct vibes.
That was just vibes, man. I just didn't think anything would happen over the weekend just based on the idea that reporting Jordan K., not alone, but several people reported that we were close to a deal of some sort. That didn't happen. When it came to Thursday, I assumed that they weren't going to do something of this magnitude on a super regional weekend on a Friday news dump. That's not how you want to introduce the situation. And so I just didn't think it was going to happen. However, now that it hasn't happened, now I'm left wondering.
Now, I got a couple of questions at play here. And I want to do the scale game, right? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, starting off.
No sevens. Can't ever have 7. 7's weak.
7's too lukewarm for you.
Lukewarm.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you still think that it's Kevin Schnall?
Well, if I was up to an 8, I'm down to 5 now.
I think that's probably where I am. Maybe 6. I still think maybe more likely than not, but not by much.
What was your highest level?
Probably about 8.5.
You was 8.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were a little bit higher, so you could go. So that makes sense as far as if we're doing scale-wise. So average or margin, we're about the same as far as where we were to where we are. What is the reason for your drop in scale of where you thought he was and where you are now?
My newfound skepticism. Kevin Schnall, skepticism. I would say that is caused by, now that we are a week into their offseason, if I were to be taking the job, I would have done it as soon as it was offered. I need to decide because I need to start recruiting and start everything, bringing my staff with me. I would need to do all of that as soon as possible because the transfer portal is open. So I would be on it. If that's not the case, then maybe Schnall wasn't. He was either two things. One, not the number one target, or B, he did not want to take the job. I think it's one of those two things, because the only thing that would tell me that the reason this thing is still going on is because other candidates who have interviewed are still coaching, especially in the College World Series.
Or is there a big counter on the coast?
Could be. And if he's weighing it out, the more he starts weighing it out, the longer that goes, the less likely I feel he would be to actually take it. Or less likely he would be to end up leaving at that point. The more time goes, the more that scale, that meter goes down for me. Especially since right now, again, the teams that are playing in the College World Series, coached by Steve Sabins at West Virginia, they're in the College World Series for the first time ever. They are North Carolina. They're in the second College World Series in the last 6 years, all under Scott Forbes. And Scott Forbes' name came out of nowhere on Friday, or I guess Thursday afternoon. We talked about it on Friday. They're playing in the College World Series too. And if you're still a believer that Skylar Meade is someone who is on the radar of this coaching staff, this athletic department, wouldn't blame you because he took Troy to the College World Series. He's going to be coaching for a little bit longer too. So now this is going to extend a little bit if those guys are the ones who are at play. And then you better get yeses from one of them if that's the case. There's a really good chance that if those guys are in heavy consideration, then the negotiations with Coastal Carolina head coach Kevin Schnall might Schnall out.
All right. I was at first of the mind that I don't mind this taking a long period of time. We have to just get it right. I don't mind that at all. And the question I asked you was, even though this was going maybe longer than you anticipated or reported, this didn't feel like some other similar coaching searches. And you brought out one reason, because nobody had publicly turned it down. Now we can still hold on to that.
Yep, because that's still true.
That is still true. Nobody has publicly turned it down. But it is starting to feel like there is some friction being held up in the process with Kevin Schnall. Either the reporting was off base and they were never as close as we thought they were, or, and I'm not sure which one is worse, that might be an indictment on either side, or we were close and we've somehow schnalled out, as you said.
And I think one thing for me is maybe there is a candidate who is more interested than you anticipated. Like, this is where the Scott Forbes thing gets really interesting for me. Because if you are like me, if you're Jeremiah Donati and you held the same belief I did, why would Scott Forbes have interest in leaving North Carolina? You're doing everything you want there. I mean, you've gone to, 4 super regionals in the 6 years you've been coaching? You've now gone to the College World Series in 2 of the 6 years that you've been coaching there. Sounds like you have everything that you need. You're in the ACC. You're in a program that cares about baseball, but it's not maybe what it is in other places because of the investments in other programs on that campus. Do those further investments in football and men's basketball, which men's basketball has always been there, but now there's a newfound desire to be good at football, even though they're failing at doing that. Tell him that there's not going to be the same investment that he has been getting. And if he's not going to get that, is he wanting to go to a place where he knows he can, which would be South Carolina? And if that's the case, and if Scott Forbes calls it, even if I'm Jeremiah Donati and I'm interviewing Kevin Schnall, and I get a call from Scott Forbes' agent says, hey, he doesn't like what the investment's going to be in this program here in the future. He's got his eye out. He's really interested in your job. Yeah, I think I would pump the brakes there. I'd be like, you sure? Are you serious? If that's the case, then I can hold off on this. And that's something I would do. I think that's something any athletic director in the country would do. Someone like Scott Forbes' resume, yeah, I think that's something I would absolutely do is pump the brakes. But until multiple people start turning it down, say like we get to Omaha this week, and Scott Forbes is in a presser and he says, I have zero desire to take the South Carolina job. I am the North Carolina baseball coach today. I am the North Carolina baseball coach tomorrow. I'll be the North Carolina baseball coach in the future. Okay, now there is cause for concern.
Okay, but let's say that happens. And now what do you have to do? I got to go back to Kevin Schnall and say, hey, man, can I still get that deal? Rockefeller
so
deal still on the table?
that deal.
This is where it gets really interesting because you assumed that the reason why, well, not the reason why, Paw and them were fired because they were inept. So that's not the reason why they were fired. But one of the benefits of doing an early firing is that you get a head start on the coaching search, whether that's the search firm being able to verify folks, or whether that's maybe even reaching out to agents on the other side, back channeling, so that we can get terms together, so that when we come to the table, I know what you want, you know what we got, and we're closer than we were if we just never had any conversations. So it's supposed to, in theory, speed this process along.
Should, yes.
In theory, if both sides have mutual agreement on that we're making this happen.
Like the Jim Schwarzenegger thing, yeah. I mean, that was done.
It's supposed to be done already.
That was done before the national title game.
Right, and again, I stress that it can be done without me having to have any dealings with this, because I can let my agent know what I'm looking at, or my agent will probably tell me, hey, this is what you want to be looking at. It's like, okay, cool. Go to work. Mm-hmm. That's why you make your money.
Go cook.
I don't want anything to do with this. That's how it seems like it should be done. And now we're here. We're 2 weeks after, or a week after Schnall has been eliminated.
Yep.
And essentially 2 weeks after the regular season ended.
Yeah, 2+ weeks, considering you lost early in Hoover. Yeah.
All right. I wonder. We'll see. We'll see. You got to think that the longer this goes, the more variances lead it in the search.
Now, with your confidence in Kevin Schnall being the head coach, that scale, if that's gone down to about a 5, Coastal Carolina coach Kevin Schnall, if that's down to a 5, on a scale of 1 to 10 now, how convinced are you that the future South Carolina Gamecock baseball coach is a coach we'll be seeing coaching his team in the College World Series this week?
Oh, yeah. Let's go back to that 8.
We've now swapped them.
Let's go back to 8. Yeah, let's go back to 8 because if not, what are we waiting on? If it's just some dude that's sitting at home,
then bad sign. I think then bad sign if that ends up being the case, because that means you probably tried for some of these guys and they had changes of heart. Because think about someone like Steve Sabins, for instance, right? If you're Steve Sabins and you're looking at the South Carolina job, you're like, oh, this is the big time. This is the job that I coach for. But then you go on this run. You saw the scenes in Morgantown. You saw all of that. They're going to the College World Series for the first time ever, and they are juiced. Those people might break LSU's Jello shot record over at the College World Series.
They are a formidable opponent.
They are a formidable opponent.
They are.
Heavy favorite to win this upcoming week? I would say so.
They are formidable.
Heavy favorite. It could be human nature could tell you, man, maybe I don't want to leave after all.
Yeah, man, that country road starts hitting, and you're like, man, I built this. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to go to some place that's already established and I have to reestablish it, but this is mine. That might be a little bit of a different challenge for a head coach.
Is there a chance that nobody wants our job?
I wouldn't say nobody, but
my worry is that we'll have to settle. And I don't love that thought.
I would not like that. Because the best part about this opening was you thought you had your pick of the litter. And I think you still do for the most part. Because I still think there's so much to like about this job, especially when it comes to just financial investment alone, right? Like college baseball is not a revenue generator. There's no promise that you're going to be able to get a lot of money for your roster, facilities, just anything operationally. And if you are a program that's top 10 in operational budget, I think no matter what your past is or no matter what your perceived future is, I think that's going to make it awfully enticing. It's different in basketball and baseball, or basketball and football, because they're revenue generators, right? Being a top 25 program in operational budget is pretty good. And even outside of that, you can always work up to get more because they're making a lot of money. Not the same way in baseball. So if you're somebody like North Carolina and you're top 20 maybe last year in operational budget, but you think that's going to go south, I don't care about recent history. It's awfully enticing to know that you can go to a place and get what you need to be able to succeed. If you don't feel like you're getting it somewhere else, taking the job where you can almost guarantee you're going to get that, I think is a real draw, like regardless of anything else. I think that alone would still give me hope that this job is viewed as one of the best in college baseball.
All right, so if you have hope, today's Monday. Do you think something gets done this week?
Depends on if your coach is still coaching by the championship series.
It doesn't matter. Didn't matter to Lane Kiffin in football.
Didn't matter to him.
So
it didn't matter to that guy at all.
Just saying.
Again, he left his team on a historic run and said, "Y'all handle that. I got bigger things to do."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Y'all be good."
Honestly, if we hire a coach that is currently coaching, I will feel better if he does finish it out first.
That's what I would prefer.
Yes.
And that would tell me enough about the character of that coach.
Correct.
To where I don't feel like we just hired a scoundrel.
Yes. I would prefer that.
And that's a win. But that's the beauty of this. We might not know, maybe even this week, if the new head coach is coaching in Omaha. And if that's the case and you end up getting that guy, that's a huge win, even if you do have to wait for it. And I will say, at the beginning of this entire thing, we were told patience is something we might have to have. But coming up next, it's the busiest recruiting time in college football, which leads me to one important recruiting question. I'll tell you what it is next.
Press here for the good folks at Integrated Media. This is the time of the year where you're either getting ready for the football season, maybe you're watching the NBA playoffs, or possibly the College World Series. And what better space than to watch that in an outdoor setup that is created by the folks at Integrated Media. What does your outdoor setup look like? Samsung Terrace TVs that are waterproof, Sonos outdoor speakers for TV and music, Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors so you can have all your devices playing without having to worry about any lag time, buffering, or any of that nonsense. The folks at Integrated Media will have your outdoor setup ready to view multiple sports. From home theater setup, adjusting your thermostat, or monitoring your security systems from your cell phone, Integrated Media is who you need to call. So call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com.
Starting off your Monday strong, no accidents to report, and the forecast kind of summer like. 91 today, mostly cloudy. Maybe an isolated late afternoon or evening storm tomorrow, 87 for the high, 92 with some clouds on Wednesday. So it's going to be a warm week, even warmer as the week goes on. Right now, it is 71.
To me, it's one of the, I guess, maybe the dizzier times of the football season, only because you see official visits popping up everywhere. Everywhere. You would think that maybe June isn't the most maybe exhausting time for college football coaches. It's getting to the point where it is, where June has become this big official visit month for football players in different classes, right? Class of 27, 28. It's extending.
Right here in my notes, Elijah, what class are we talking about? Because I don't ever know what class this is. Besides the fact that my mind gets blown the further we get. It's like 28. What are we?
Class of 2028 is like, whoa.
Slow down. But it's not, they're always in different, it's like, oh no, but he's class of 27. But they can be in the same visit. And so that is something that has been really difficult for me to wrap my brain around whenever we start talking about these official visits, because as I put at there, you said it, I don't know what class we're talking about, but apparently we're talking about all of them.
Yeah, they're all happening, and it's all fast. But I was reading a bunch of stuff like on ESPN and The Athletic about, ranking of the classes for 27 or this recruiting period, right? And it's a bunch of different notes and rankings and things of that nature. And I just kind of found myself sitting there thinking, like, that's great for all these teams if they stay.
Mm-hmm.
And more, we're seeing more transfers every single offseason than we ever have. It just leads me to want to ask this question: does this still matter, right? You still get excited when your team lands a blue chip recruit that, like you did maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago. To me, I think I still get excited, but I'm like cautious, more optimistically cautious, right? Every single time that happens now, because like it's great. Are they going to play early? If not, are they going to leave? Are they going to stay for a little bit? I think one thing about the modern college game now is that we'll never lose an emphasis on high school recruiting. And I think for a lot of people it's still mattering, but it doesn't make you feel the same way. I don't think it feels the same for me because of that one new element to it.
Well, we still, as you stated, you still know that high school recruiting is still very important for a majority of the programs that are highly successful. You still need to recruit very well out of high school. Now, that being said, I think because the recruiting timeline has been sped up so much and we're asking these athletes, take for instance Landon Duckworth, who went through the process of committing, decommitting, and recommitting throughout his whole process. And that was over like maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
That was a very long process. And I think we're asking the athletes to get involved in the recruiting at such an earlier stage that, yeah, it is likely that somebody who commits to, and this is something that baseball does a lot too, somebody that commits in 10th grade as a 15-year-old might feel a little different at 17 years old.
Because at age 15, you've never really had to commit to anything.
Yeah, and so I think maybe that is something that has changed, whereas the commitments in the past, whatever that was a lot closer to, okay, I'm committed, I'll be there next semester. Now our commitments are lasting a lot longer, and I do think it's more difficult to, I got to recruit you for the next 3 years.
Yeah, the commitment doesn't mean I have to stop. No, I have to keep at it.
That feels like something that's changed. So I think, to me, that is one of the bigger changes that leads to a lot of the decommitments. But I would say, man, I don't know. Can you take anything a 10th grader says that seriously?
I mean, they can't commit to a girl. Like,
no, definitely not.
Definitely not. No.
Like, come on. I mean, we so I don't know. If somebody I would say the later commitments, yes, a senior or somebody along those lines, I guess. But yeah, maybe that does change the calculus on who's going to actually end up on campus.
Like, there was an example this week that I think is maybe the most quintessential college football recruiting story. Then it happened to South Carolina, right? They had a recruit flip, right? He was already committed to South Carolina, flips to Florida State over the weekend, and it's one of those things where he took an official visit to Florida State while committed. And I'm like, I don't think we know what this word means, right? I don't know. Maybe this happened more often back in my day, and we just didn't know about it because we're not chronically online. But if I saw someone committed 10 years ago, I'm like, okay, you're shutting your entire recruitment down that's where you're going to go. Any late change of heart isn't done because of an official visit. But if you tell me you're committed somewhere and you take an official visit somewhere else, that doesn't mean commitment to me, right? Like I can't tell, my partner that, hey, I'm committed to you, but I want to go to the neighbor's house. And just us. Feel a little weird, right?
Well, this is where Dabo was on the forefront. Maybe many didn't like it, but he was very clear in saying that if you commit to Clemson, your official visits are done.
Yeah.
You don't have to commit to us.
You don't have to, yeah.
But once you do, then that part of the conversation is done. Now, the other side of that is a lot of schools often like to gather commitment, like infinity stones. We want to have all these commitments so we can show everybody that we have these commitments so that we can rise in the rankings. And once we rise in the rankings, we can use that to go get more commitments because now we're higher and it's this big sort of shell game that everybody's playing, right?
That's a good way of putting it. It's a shell game.
It's kind of like this big thing that's happening. But, yeah, Dabo was very clear on that. If you commit,
that's it.
That's it.
You're shutting the recruitment down.
You don't have to, but once you do, you're done.
That word's going to mean something.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to look at it. But yes, that did happen over the weekend. And so, explain the story a little bit more to me.
Just, as far as I know, it's just South Carolina had a commit. It was Jernard Albright from Baltimore, again, a place that Shane Beamer recruits really well over the DMV. Was a 2027 class of 4-star, I think defensive back. Told a couple of media members that he flipped. I think he's been committed to South Carolina since Christmas. So not terribly long. We're talking, 6 months maybe? And took an official visit to Tallahassee over the weekend, and that was enough to flip him. Was wooed enough, impressed enough by Mike Norvell and that staff, and decided to commit pretty much right after. Right after that was right after it was done. Reportedly, you read more about it, reportedly Florida State's been working on it for a while to try to get him to flip. But I think that happens in college football a lot more now where somebody might be committed per se, but that really doesn't mean much of anything other than you are, I guess, the leader to land them when it comes to signing day.
Yes.
That's pretty much all it means now. I'm just one of those, it may be semantics, Preston Thorne, but words still mean something to me. If you're committed, that means that's where you're going to sign. That means there is a 0% possibility of surprises on signing day. Now, if I like you a lot and I'm leaning that way, we could just say this, Jernard Albright is leaning South Carolina. I'm cool with that because if I'm leaning somewhere and I have a change of heart, that's fine. People do that all the time. I may leave this studio today thinking I want Chipotle for lunch. I might be leaning that, but then I drive past, Dairy Queen. I'm like, oh, a Blizzard sounds great. And then whoop, back into the parking lot there, and then I go get a Blizzard after my burger. That sounds great. And you know what? That's fine because I never committed to eating Chipotle for lunch. I feel like recruiting should be the same way. I'm leaning somewhere, but I can still go somewhere after because I have not committed.
I'm really enjoying Elijah yelling at the clouds right here.
I know, right?
I'm really enjoying this.
Words mean stuff.
Well, they really do. I mean, let's look up the definition of commit.
Yes, words mean things. Webster will tell you what it means. And that doesn't mean you're changing your mind in 6 months. That doesn't mean committed. I have no problem with kids changing their minds. I really don't. Can we just stop calling it commitments? Please. Oh, done. That's enough anger for today. But coming up next, ESPN's Adam Rittenberg made a list. And I think there are some big Gamecock exclusions on there. I'll tell you who it is next year on the early game.
No significant slowdowns at this point on your Monday morning, and the forecast looks really nice. Cloudy. It's going to be warm, 91. Tomorrow, 87 for the high, maybe an isolated shower or storm. And then Wednesday, 92. 90, then it kind of goes up incrementally the rest of the week. 94 on Thursday, 96 on Friday, sitting at 71 right now.
What do we love, Preston Thorne?
List,
Oh, we love lists. And
rankings.
especially when we're still like, 90-something days until the college football season? That's a lot of time, Preston.
Perfect time for it.
It's a lot of time, which means we're going to have to find a way to continue to be invested in this sport because it doesn't stop. But in college football, there are lists all over the place. And Adam Rittenberg from ESPN gave his list of college football's top non-quarterback playmakers in 2026. There are no South Carolina Gamecocks on this list. And I found that interesting because I thought one of them should be a shoo-in, and that's Dylan Stewart.
Okay.
And I thought maybe you could make a case for Nick Harbor over maybe some of these guys when it comes to offensive weapons, right? Like defensively, there are a couple defensive guys on here. Not a lot. Like Tyreek Tucker, defensive tackle from Indiana.
6 foot, 300 pounds.
Biggin.
My guy.
Biggin. Coy Parrish, a safety and a kickoff returner from Oregon. Jamon Tapp, a defensive lineman from Memphis. 6'3", 256, though.
Mm-hmm.
So not biggin.
Mm-hmm.
But I looked at some of these guys, and I'm like, I think I would take Dylan Stewart over Cam Robinson at Virginia. Take him over a lot of these guys. And then at first I was like, am I misreading this? Is it maybe under the radar guys? No, because Jeremiah Smith's on this list at Ohio State, and that's like the most guy on there.
Yeah, I think you are misreading this because I think you're missing the essential question. It's a question that we've posed a lot around here. The question is production versus potential. And I think this list is based on production. And if the list is based on production, no, Dylan Stewart can't be on that list. He had a solid year last year, but he does not match up to the list of folks who, as far as production is concerned. Potential, absolutely.
For sure.
The list right underneath the second player, and I was just looking at these numbers. These numbers are ridiculous. John Henry Daly from Michigan, 11 sacks, 17 and a half tackles for TFLs, 2 forced fumbles, 48 tackles.
That guy's the truth. That guy's scary good.
That's not Dylan Stewart's numbers. 19 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 12 for 12 TFLs. Those aren't the same numbers. And so if we're just going production versus potential, I feel like this list is based on production versus potential. And Dylan had a solid year last year, but he didn't have a breakout year last year. And there could have been a lot of factors that are involved in that. But I do think that's why he's not on this list. It's
a very interesting point because it's one of those things in terms of just how you look at football too. Like, don't want to rip on anybody, you know, for their list because Adam puts a lot of work into this, and I certainly appreciate it, and I love the information that's given. You know, he consults a lot of coaches on this too, so there's a lot of good quotes from different coaches that either coach these players or coach against them to give really good, important information here. When it comes to Dylan Stewart, I think that even breaks into a larger picture of like a football Rorschach test, how you view edge rushers, right? Because there's a knock on some guys, especially once you get into draft season. There's the guys that are incredibly productive, like a Texas Tech's David Bailey, who was the leader in sacks in college football by a lot, and he's the number 2 overall pick. And there are some edge rushers where they maybe don't have the same sack numbers, but they have high, pressure rates, pass rush win rates, things that I think lead to more sacks in the future, because you can still be, to me, a dominant edge rusher even if you're not getting sacks. If you are impacting the game.
Agreed.
I called it the Jadeveon Clowney rule in the NFL, because before Jadeveon Clowney maybe got into the back half of his career, he was still one of the best edge rushers in the NFL because he was able to get to the quarterback a lot. He didn't get a lot of sacks, not to the number that you probably expected him to have when he was drafted number 1 overall. You were thinking he was going to be a 15-sack-a-year guy. That wasn't the case, but he was still winning at the line of scrimmage. He was forcing a lot of pressure. His defenses that he was on forced a lot of turnovers, and a lot of that is because you can collapse a pocket maybe quicker than other guys. I think Dylan Stewart's certainly in that category of maybe his sack numbers don't necessarily tell the impact that he has on the team.
Yeah, and I think that's very, very clear because the teams are shifting their blocking schemes towards him. They're chipping him. They're running backs out of there. They're doing everything possible to keep him away. And so Kyle Kennard should donate to the Dylan Stewart Fund every year, right? Every year he should make a nice donation to Dylan Stewart's charity of choice for getting him to the point that he got to, for getting that Nagurski. Who was our guy last year? I'm blanking on
Brian Thomas Jr.
Brian Thomas Jr. If, in fact, he does make a squad this year and makes the roster, he should also make a sizable contribution to the Dylan Stewart charity of choice, because he's the one who's given a lot of these guys opportunities to have one-on-ones, to be solo, and to do these things. So I think the list talked about impact, and when we easily talk impact, you're thinking like counting stats.
Right, yeah.
And that's a very quick, I'm not even saying simple. I'm not, like you said, I'm not denigrating anybody's knowledge of ball or whatever the case is, but that's a surface level way to look at it. But I do think Dylan's impact goes a lot further than maybe this list is constructed to be. But that's why lists are awesome.
That's why it's great. And here's the thing, too. I really can't argue with a guy who got 11.5 sacks. Like, John Henry Daly's really good. Clearly, you're winning at the line of scrimmage a lot if you were still getting that many sacks. Sacks is one of those stats, too, that I look at. I'm like, if you have it, that obviously tells me that you are incredibly productive. But if you don't have it, then I need to look into more as to maybe why, right? I need to see other things to kind of determine for me if you are as productive as that number might reflect, right? Now, there are maybe some luck things there. I do know John Henry Daly's passer win rate's really good. And the same thing for, David Bailey at Texas Tech last year. Those guys were getting sacks because they were winning at the line of scrimmage a lot, and the quarterbacks they were playing couldn't get rid of the ball. So it's great to have that, and clearly that makes you incredibly productive. But even if your total's a little number like lower, like Dylan's, I think there's some context maybe as to why that ends up being the case. It becomes a good Rorschach test, I guess. Now, in terms of if we want to stick with the potential route, yeah, I wouldn't have put Nick Harbor on here over maybe some of the other weapons. Like, I'm not putting Nick Harbor over, Jeremiah Smith or Malachi Toney. Like, those guys are the best wide receivers in the game. Kawan Lacey as a running back, I certainly think is one of the most productive players in all of college football. West Virginia's Cam Cook's on this list. That guy's a monster. But Nick Harbor on the potential side could be someone that finds his way on this list. Knowing what we know about Kendall Briles' offense and the receivers that he's helped kind of push along in his offenses, I think Harbor's got the physical skills to make the biggest leap of his career this year.
There's two parts about the Nick Harbor discussion. One, it's year 3, so now we need to talk about production versus potential, right?
Yep.
We've had the potential discussion. Now he needs to produce. The second part is he also spent the first 2 years in mediocre. In the first year in a mediocre offense, the second year in an objectively terrible offense. So there's that.
Yes.
So the year 3 might be something that happens for him.
It may be the most telling part of it. But coming up next, there is one team in Major League Baseball who is scratching and clawing for a playoff spot. And their best hope to making the playoffs going into the later part of this year may lie on the shoulders of a former South Carolina Gamecock. I'll tell you who it is next year on the early game.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if people still despise him, but it does sort of grind my grits a little bit.
Okay.
When I think about them, I still like, despite the fact that they continued winning after, that they did it with different players, did it with new
different
coaches,
managers,
yeah, all of that. It's still kind of like, I don't love it.
Now this year, struggling. They're 30-37, but they're in the worst division in baseball, arguably. Now, would it make you feel intrigued with the idea of cheering for the Houston Astros if I told them that a former Gamecock might be the reason they squeak into the playoffs?
That would get my attention.
Because Christian Walker's having a really good season.
Still in the league.
Not just still in the league, playing really, really well right now. And I know it might feel like it's like a little obscurity. I know in this part of the country, it's all Braves all the time when it comes to Major League Baseball. And I get it. It should be. I was actually at Truist Park over the weekend. I was at the Braves-Pirates game on Saturday. Fantastic environment, a packed house for a game on Saturday in early June. That's awesome. It was great. 10 out of 10 experience, would do again. But Gamecock fans, if you need a bandwagon team, might be Houston, because they're relying a lot on Christian Walker. Second on the team in OPS, second on the team in home runs, second on the team in RBI. And, of course, Yordan Alvarez is leading in all of those, and Yordan Alvarez is having like a borderline AL MVP type season. Like, 'cause he's already crushed 22 homers, and he's got an OPS over 1,000. But if you take Yordan Alvarez out of the equation, without a doubt, the most reliable bat they have in that lineup is Christian Walker. So former Gamecock, maybe making one of the more unlikable teams in Major League Baseball likable. I'm just throwing it out there. It's a thing.
I was just looking to see what year it was, but whenever he signed the most recent deal that he signed, I was like, good for you,
yeah,
Christian. I was like, wow, okay. I think it was 3 for 60 or something like that. And I was like,
bag.
Hey, that's solid to pick up towards the back end of his career, because I think we always have to remind each other that, hey, that was a long time ago when he was
35.
Here. Yeah. And he signed a 3-year deal. I think this is year 3, and he's producing like that. Christian might be on his way to another one.
He's having a little bit of a career resurgence here. This is his highest. So OPS plus is just the number that tells you what your OPS is above average. So like OPS plus of 100 means you're average, right? That your OPS is average, because some years the average, on base plus slugging percentage is higher. Some years it's lower. I like using that because it tells you what that metric is compared to the rest of your peers in baseball. Right now he's at a 125. It's his highest OPS plus since 2022, and it is the highest he would have had for an entire season in his career. Technically, he was at 201, which is absurd, but he only played in 11 games in 2017. But this is, at age 35,
2017,
on pace to have a career year.
2017 was a while ago.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Feels like forever ago.
Yeah, and when I heard the news come about, I was like, man, that's great for Christian. That's awesome. Very interesting choice, Astros, but apparently they knew.
They knew. And he struggled a little bit last year, was below average in the OPS department. But this year, the numbers are up across the board. Slugging percentage better, on-base percentage a lot better, right? Strikeout percentage a lot better, batting average better, home runs. He's definitely on pace to crush his 27 mark of last year. He's got 16 already. And look, I know they're under 500 right now, and if the Astros were in any other division, like, their season's a throwaway. But they're in the AL West, which is the worst division in baseball, because the Mariners lead it, and they're only 2 games above 500. So the Astros are 4.5 back of first place. Their playoff pathway is to win that division. And if they do, because a Gamecock legend helped get them there. Didn't think I'd be saying that at the beginning of the season. But he's having a really solid year.
Did not pick that out.
So if you're looking for a team, if you're not a Braves fan and you're just kind of like a casual baseball fan, you love the Gamecocks, Astros might be your team this year.
Sports talk. You ready?
Oh, let's do it.
Jose Altuve, HOF.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because he's done it forever too. And I'm not as like buried that entire franchise because of the scandal thing. It never really bothered me that much because you'd be surprised at what a lot of teams do that you don't know about.
Got caught.
He got caught. But yeah, Altuve at 36, having a solid season. It's fair. It's his best days are clearly behind him. Christian Walker's having his best days right now. It's interesting. Christian Walker can will them to the playoffs in 2026. Hour number 2 coming up next. Playoffs, including a wild night in San Antonio.
Press here for Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. If your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, that's no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right, they'll come out to wherever you are. School, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out to you and take care of the job for you. Now, if you're at home, looking to increase the value of your home, Absolute Glass can take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. They say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
No accidents at this time, and it's a good way to start your Monday morning. Another great way to start is a great forecast. And 91 is the high we're looking for today. There could be an isolated late afternoon storm tomorrow, 87 for the high. Then it's 92 on Wednesday, 94 on Thursday, 96 on Friday. So a little bit warm, a little more summer-like this week. Currently 71 on the early game.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. He is Jim Mora.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
One, Jim, don't tell me what to do. We're going to talk about the playoffs. Because how couldn't you after what happened over the weekend? And before we get into the wildness of what happened in San Antonio, I think that wildness might have been topped on Saturday night in Las Vegas, because that's one of the bat bleep craziest games I have ever seen in my life. For those who missed it, it's Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals, tied at 1 apiece. We're in Vegas, no score after 1 period. Teams are still feeling things out, and the Knights completely obliterate the Hurricanes in the next 20 minutes. They score 4 goals. Really, in the course of a 6-minute stretch, they score 4 goals to go into the third period 4-0. At this point, Preston Thorne, I think it's done.
It should
it's
be done.
A wrap. And I'm like, oh, buddy, if this is how this Vegas team's playing at home, Carolina's not stealing one at all. And I assume the game was over, to the point where I'm no longer keeping tabs with it. I'm over at the Battery after the baseball game, catching up with some friends. I'm like, oh, this thing's over. Mentally, I can check out. I know exactly how this is going. It felt like the blink of an eye. I look up, and it's 4-4 in the third period, and it all happened. Well, 3 of the goals happened in a 1-minute stretch.
That's ridiculous.
In a 1 minute, Preston Thorne, at about the 12 or 13-minute mark, it goes from 4-0 to 4-3 in less than 60 game seconds. Remarkable. And then the Hurricanes are trying to score that tying goal late. And with less than 2 minutes left on the power play, dumb Vegas penalty, Andrei Svechnikov scores a goal to tie it and send it to overtime. And 1 overtime wasn't enough, Preston Thorne. We had to have 2 overtimes. And then Shea Theodore scores the game winner for Vegas about almost 6 minutes into the second overtime. An incredibly even game. Both teams only had 4 penalty minutes. Vegas only took 2 more shots than the Hurricanes did. Face-off possession, Hurricanes almost 60%. Did really well in that regard. It was a really evenly matched game, but it was also the most bipolar sporting event you might have ever seen in your life.
I would say the lemon booty meter was sky high.
Yeah, I would say the lemon booty meter broke because of how intense it got.
Because you walk yourself through that, right? It's 4-0. I'm chilling. I'm sitting in my seat. I'm still a little nervous because it's playoffs, but I feel pretty good. 4-1, cool. 4-2, okay. All right, you have my intent. 4-3.
Oh, buddy. And then it was 4-3 for about 11 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So the entire time.
And now you're like, oh no. Oh, no.
And the Knights were playing like they had lemon booty, too. They were losing possession a lot. The Hurricanes had a lot of puck control in the last part of that game when it was a 1-goal game. And it felt like they're just playing not to lose at that point. Like classic sports talk radio adage, oh, don't play not to lose. Play to win the game. Do your Herm Edwards thing. But it really did feel like that was the case. It felt like the Knights were just playing passive. They're just doing whatever they can to make every shot hard for Carolina, and possessing the puck did not matter to them at a certain point. Just a remarkable game. Then, of course, Svechnikov ties it up, and we're going into overtime, and I'm like, oh, my God, if the Knights lose this game, that's the biggest gut punch on planet Earth.
This is a great series because you've repeated that same sentence for the other team.
Uh-huh. That's how you know. The pendulum of desperation is giving equal airtime right now.
It's going back and forth.
Back and forth to both sides of this thing. And the Hurricanes were so close to stealing one on the road, making that first game not matter. But you know what I like about this series the most, Preston Thorne? A big lead doesn't matter. Because the Hurricanes did this same thing in Game 2, won at that time, where they got down and then tied up in a matter of moments. It was only 2-0 that last time. This was significantly more impressive and more dizzying.
Is there a hockey equivalent to, like prevents you from winning? Is there any similar
I think you saw it on
sentiment
Saturday
to
night.
that?
Yeah, I think you saw it on Saturday
I just
night.
imagine hockey dudes saying that, like, don't get in the prevent.
Nope,
It prevents you from winning.
Where it's, except like the equivalent is quit dumping and chasing. How about we get on the attack here? How about we try to, force a breakaway or get the puck into the high danger zone or get it into the slot and throw pucks on net? Didn't necessarily, happen. The Hurricanes, just in that last period.
In this series, if you're down 4-0, you're right where you want them.
Right where you want them. Because, that can change in the blink of an eye. And I've seen a lot of Stanley Cup final games. In these playoff situations, the game's not as free-flowing as it is in the regular season. Like, regular season hockey's drunk like this a lot. Like, that sort of thing is, I don't want to say commonplace, because it's still rare to erase a 4-goal deficit. That's still a pretty remarkable comeback. But it is maybe a little more expected because 82-game season, game's not as physical in the regular season as it does get in the playoffs. It's a lot more physical in the playoffs. Scoring chances goes down a little bit. So for that to happen in a Stanley Cup final game was awesome.
Yeah.
Exciting. It was incredibly exciting. And then just the night before that, too, in San Antonio, it happened. The youth showed up in a wild way.
Yeah. You have to earn it. You have to take your lumps. You have to grow. You have to go through the process. You have to matriculate all of those. Any catchphrase you want to use. We were wondering if they were going to escape it, and it finally showed up.
The young and dumb showed up.
Yes.
And it wasn't just the last play, but even before that, right? When they get a big first-half lead, a double-digit first-half lead, they revert into some, really bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of describe it like this, is the Spurs offense in the second and third quarter was more vibes than offense. We're not going to run sets, just vibes, right? Settling for a lot of shots, especially a lot of threes early in the shot clock. Not really working to get an advantage on offense. If you watch the Knicks play offense, they are maybe one of the best teams I've ever seen at just finding an advantage on every single possession. That's what a really smart basketball team does. I think the Spurs are a smart basketball team, but when your average age is 25, at some point you're going to make some we've not been here type of decisions, type of plays. I think in the second and third quarter when the Knicks are not just erased that deficit, they got a 10-plus point lead of their own. There was a lot of young and dumb with San Antonio. More vibes, less offense.
And the young and dumb, everybody's going to be encapsulated by that last particular play. And with this particular play, Jen, we have this clip because I'm a sucker. I am a sucker for any call in a foreign language. Anytime you have a call in a foreign language, I am a sucker for it. Jen, can we get the clip of the French broadcast from Wemby making his fatal mistake?
Brunson, attention, face à Victor Wembanyama, il va se lever à 2 points.
Bonne défense de Victor.
Oh, il va rester 13 secondes.
Il l'a pas vu.
Stéphane Cassel.
Ils ont la balle, non?
Et non, et non, et non.
Il y a faute.
Eh oui, il y a faute.
Il y a faute de Victor.
Oui, il y a faute de Victor.
Brunson, attention, face à Victor Wembanyama, il va se lever à 2
I have no idea what they said, but I knew exactly what they meant.
I know the despair. I know despair when I hear it.
Oh, no!
Despair is a universal language. I don't have to know the words you're saying. All I can know is what your vested interest in did not happen.
Yes.
What you wanted to happen did not happen. And that was when Victor Wembanyama one-handed grabbed a rebound on a rare Jalen Brunson missed shot in the fourth quarter. Jalen Brunson's missed a lot of shots in this series, but not a lot in the fourth quarter. They get a Jalen Brunson miss. Wemby grabs the rebound. There's 10 seconds left, and they have a chance to hold on to the ball for the last shot of the game and either win or go to overtime. And Wemby makes eye contact with Stephon Castle, but Castle moves his head. Wemby throws the ball anyway, and it bounces off his back, and Brunson gets a steal, gets fouled, makes a free throw with 9 seconds left, and then Wemby misses the game-winning
Still had a chance.
Still had a chance. Still had a chance at the end. So it wasn't over after that point. But that play, I think, perfectly encapsulates what the young and dumb can do to you in an NBA Finals at that stage, right? But all things being said, still was a remarkable basketball game to the point where, yeah, the Knicks stole 2 on the road. I'm not counting the series over yet. I know a lot of people are looking at that saying, oh, the Spurs are cooked because you're going to MSG and it's going to be an insane environment. But that pendulum swings both ways, Preston Thorne. And I think if the Spurs if they steal, it's a Kevin Millar game.
Mm-hmm. Kevin Millar.
Kevin Millar, they're down 3-0 to the Yankees, and he says, hey, don't let us get tonight. Don't let us get this one. If you're the Knicks, don't let them get this one.
Knicks fans don't deserve this. If this happens,
don't let them get. I'm telling you right now, do not let them get Game 3 because young and dumb also is we don't know what we don't know.
It's
and
true.
if that young team wins one on the road, they're not scared of being on the road anymore. And they won 2 in Oklahoma City, and that's a raucous environment with a team that won a championship. If they get Game 3, Preston Thorne, which is tonight at 8:30. Lemon booty factor in Game 4 at MSG would be an all-time high. Oxygen levels will be low in that entire arena. We're talking space levels of oxygen in that stadium. No one's going to be able to breathe for 4 quarters.
it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
It's going to be really tough. Now, what I do know, Preston Thorne, is there's going to be a lot of folks there in attendance. Unfortunately, Dave DeBuscher is not alive to be able to see this.
You said it.
Dave DeBuscher.
You hit it.
He's not here to enjoy this with us, but he would be so pumped. He would be there. Dave DeBuscher would be
You said
there.
Dave DeBuscher and Elijah, that conjured some things. That brought some things into mind.
Are you feeling what I'm feeling?
I'm starting to feel it because we had the Spirit make an appearance, Elijah.
Oh.
The Spirit made an appearance. It made an appearance at brunch yesterday, and it was with Mama Thorne. Mama Thorne started talking about 1973.
Oh, did we get
You know what happened in 1973? My big brother Corey Thorne was born, but he was born in August. Mama Thorne said she remembers being pregnant watching the 1973 New York Knicks win the championship. She doesn't just remember it. She started naming names.
Oh.
She said Clyde Frazier.
Oh, buddy.
She said Dave DeBuscher.
Oh,
She
Dave
said
DeBuscher.
Bill Bradley.
Hey, future politician Bill Bradley.
Future politician, senator, Rhodes
Senator.
Scholar. You know who else was a Rhodes Scholar? I started thinking about this. He's a guy. Titans, Nashville, Florida State.
Oh, what?
Come on.
I know
Come
who
on.
this is.
He was a great neurosurgeon.
Safety.
A neurosurgeon.
Myron.
Myron
Oh, Roll.
Roll.
Yes.
Myron Roll was a neurosurgeon.
he was.
a
Genius.
Rhodes Scholar also. Phil Jackson was on that
Phil
team.
Jackson was on that team. Great mustache. A sign of the times.
Mama Thorne broke into guys naming dudes at brunch yesterday. It was awesome.
Amen.
I couldn't help it. Could not contain it. 1973, 53 years ago. Shout out to Corey Thorne, my big brother. She remembers watching the Knicks. Willis Reed, how could we
Willis
forget him?
Reed, yeah. Ultimate Willis Reed. That was the Willis Reed series.
It was. Okay.
MVP.
All right. Whew.
I don't know how many of those gentlemen will be in attendance. I know Dave DeBuscher cannot.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Bill
My favorite players on the team, I don't know.
Bill Bradley is the only reason that I ever heard of a Rhodes Scholar. And I also just thought it was a ROAD, like Rhodes Scholar. It was a long time before I knew what a Rhodes
This
Scholar
guy-
was.
That's what I thought my dad was growing up working for the Department of Transportation when he's going on like trips where he's basically analyzing asphalt and the technique of microsurfacing.
Rhodes
He's a
Scholar.
microsurfacing expert. He is technically a Rhodes Scholar, but ROADS.
Rhodes Scholar, yeah. It was amazing. It was amazing. It just happened. And the Spirit just took over her.
Oh, see, no one's immune to it. No one's immune to the spirit of guys naming dudes taking over. Oh, that's great.
53 years.
Long time. And you know what? It doesn't matter how far away removed you are from it.
It always is with you.
It's with you. Guys naming dudes will eventually. Out of all the places where that spirit is summoned, we summon that thing on this show all the time.
Mm-hmm.
On and off air. We are guys naming dudes. You probably never foresaw
I didn't. It just happened.
with your mother at brunch.
It just happened. It was crazy. It happened. Yes, I was like, what is happening?
You're like, oh, what's going
And she
on?
kept going, what, Clyde Frazier? I was like, Clyde to Clyde.
You're like, let her cook. Keep going. Keep going. Oh man, just in the spirit of it being at MSG tonight, can I get a Charlie Ward? Now we have an extra college football crossover that also fits in well.
And Florida State, too.
And Florida State.
Oh, my God.
We are breaking new grounds here of guys naming dudes.
Might as well say Samari Roll while we're here.
Samari Roll, my favorite Titan of all time. Samari roll.
Another Titan Florida State guys named Dudes crossover. What's happening?
This is the greatest Venn diagram of all time. But coming up next is the early game morning meeting. Why isn't the U.S. better at soccer? We'll break it down. If we want to continue with the spirit of guys naming dudes, I'm going to name the dude that can help you get out of whatever tax issue is plaguing you, and that is John Ecton and his team at the Ecton Law Firm. It's not just John. He's got a team, a local team that's been resolving income or business tax issues for good here in the state of South Carolina, and it all starts with one phone call. That's at a number of 803-771-9800. You can set up a free consultation with John Ecton and his team at the Ecton Law Firm to go through those challenges, be able to lay out your case with them, and to be able to get you one step closer to a worry-free life. And with all the proven local solutions they have that's helped thousands, families, and businesses just like yours, there's nothing you can show them they have not seen before. So if we're playing the ultimate guys naming dudes game, John Ecton and his team at the Ecton Law Firm here for you to get you out of your IRS maze.
Not seeing any accidents to report, and I don't mind that one little bit. And forecast-wise, it's looking pretty nice. Going to feel a little more summer-like this week. We're looking for high today of 91. Maybe an afternoon isolated thunderstorm tomorrow, 87 for the high. Then we keep kind of creeping up in the 90s, 92 on Wednesday, 94 on your Thursday. But right now, holding kind of steady at 71.
World Cup starts this week, Preston Thorne. This week. And it's here in our own backyard. Not our backyard of Columbia, South Carolina, but it is in the United States. Technically North America. Games in Mexico and Canada, too. But as the host country, one of the 3 host countries, it leads me to ask this question. Why are we better at this? We have some of the best athletes on planet Earth. Why are we better at this? Well, that's the question I posed for today's morning meeting.
Morning. Repeat after me. Today will be an awesome day.
You bet it will.
Let's go. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day.
Absolutely will be an awesome day, Preston Thorne, but we're going to start with a little bit of a philosophy question here. It's one that I'm interested in because the more people I talk to that I know really know U.S. soccer tell me that, like, this is a really good team. All I know is the history of how they've done in the World Cup, and it's not high end. Not for the amount of athletes that we just have in the United States of America. We have some great athletes in the United States of America, and it's always kind of bothered me that we can't compete at the highest level like this. And now again, this team should be a little better. I do appreciate Brad on the Firehouse Subs text line. Says after the first 7 or 8 minutes, the U.S. men's national team looked like a team that could play with anybody the rest of the first half. Didn't have the same energy the second half and all the subs because it was a friendly. So, yeah, like the friendly part makes it hard to judge. It's like the warm-up games kind of going into the World Cup. I never really put a ton of stock into, but I think what Brad sees, a lot of other people see, which is that there's maybe more high-end talent on this team. You're just not going to have the depth anywhere else. But it's always been a thing for me, Preston Thorne. Why isn't the United States much better at this whole soccer thing?
This is a question that a lot of people have tried to solve for, and it's really interesting. You hear this, soccer is going to be the next sport. I've been hearing that since, right? And it hasn't come to fruition yet. It's growing, it's building. There's obviously a lot more participation when just raw numbers, but I think there's a lot of reasons. And the number one reason I think is that it's not a priority in our nation. We have several other sports which take priority over this sport in our nation. And so everything else to me is downstream from the idea that soccer is not the athletic priority of this nation. When you look at some of these other countries, it's the thing.
Like Brazil, I mean, European countries, I think maybe your best athletes in those nations are playing soccer.
So you have your best human capital goes towards the priority. Your best financial capital goes towards the priority. And then your best intellectual capital, as far as the people who are coaching and creating and designing these things, that all goes that way. And so it's very difficult for the soccer world to sort of jockey for position in the United States, where we have 2, if not 3 other sports that have a larger priority from them.
And they're maybe not growing up playing it as much, right? I think everybody, plays soccer at some point in your life, right?
And that's something that has changed. So more and more people have at least played soccer at some point. So we can't talk about like we're not familiar with soccer. Everybody's familiar with it at this point.
Yeah, we're familiar with it, and it's better, or not better. It's so prominent, I guess, at young ages. But I think the priority part, like what you mentioned, is maybe the big thing. Like, imagine if someone like LeBron James or Jamar Chase, or I'm just thinking just great athletes outside of my head, Justin Jefferson, who are like the most freakishly athletic players in North American pro sports right now. If they just grew up and played soccer and committed to it, then, and I guess honed in a lot of those skills, would we be what a lot of other countries are when it comes to competing for World Cup titles? Maybe. I certainly think so. Now, for some athletes, maybe being tall isn't the same type of advantage, in soccer that is in other sports. But I find this to be fascinating because we do have just so many great athletes. And the U.S. men's national team at like the highest stage in this has been a disaster at times. And there's been a lot of controversy with how just the organization's been run too, right? You can go down a rabbit hole with some of the U.S. men's national teams, failures as an organization. But like our women's team, World Cup champions, they're always contending for World Cup titles, but the men's not. I just find that to be really interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously a large issue that a lot of people have tried to answer. But I feel, I don't want to speak out of turn for soccer folks, soccer heads, right? But we were supposed to be major contenders at this point. That's why we were getting it here. That's why we wanted to have a team for the 2026 World Cup, because this was supposed to be the year when we finally had a team that was ready to contend. It was all going to come together in North America. And from my understanding, it doesn't feel like that's happening. Like, we're here, but we're not in one of the top contenders like we hoped that we would be to this point.
Maybe there's just not a depth thing too, because like guys like Tyler Adams, Christian Pulisic, like they play in like the best leagues in the world, but for some reason, I guess we just can't get a full team of guys that are playing like their pro sports or the pro soccer overseas in the best leagues. 803-404-6100. It's AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Rich is on the line. Good morning, Rich.
Good morning. Hey, Pete.
Yes.
Hey, so definitely a soccer fan, and I always look at the infrastructure. I grew up and went to high school in Germany, and, they start them kids young and within the system, the program. We just don't have that same type of system here in America. We got the high school, but we don't have the local. They build up from when I lived in Germany. You played for the town you lived in. You kept playing till the teenage years, the adult years. And if you were good enough, the big clubs will find you, and you would play under their club system. We just don't have that here, and that's one of the biggest things. We have the resources, we have the facilities. We just don't have the infrastructure to build that capacity to be competitive.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Appreciate it, Rich.
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. Yeah, there are a lot of good points in that. The infrastructure is a big thing, and I think that goes back to kind of what you said too. Like, it's just not as prioritized.
Yeah, because if it was prioritized, those infrastructures would be in place. And he said systems have to be in place. It's not just going to be a matter of having these great athletes. They have to be put in place, trained, brought up in an idea of this is what U.S. soccer is, and we haven't quite gotten there.
Yeah, we haven't. But I am interested to see how this is going to go, because I think the group they're in is advantageous. I think Turkey's probably the best team that's in your group. But it's going to start with that first game against Paraguay this, Friday? I think we're going to find out how up for it they are, because according to FIFA World Ranking, it only gets harder for the remaining games in your group. But coming up next, I have more texts on the Firehouse Subs text line I want to get to, including one about the baseball coaching search, an angle we haven't necessarily discussed yet, and we'll get to that next year in the early game.
Still no accidents to report. And as I mentioned before, I'm not complaining about that whatsoever. 91, that's going to be our high today. Tomorrow, 87 with some isolated late afternoon storms. And on Wednesday, 92 up to 94 on Thursday. So it's a week pretty much in the 90s, feeling a little more summer-like. And right now it is 72 on 107.5 The Game.
So much of the Gamecock baseball coaching search has kind of been centered around, obviously, Kevin Schnall, Coastal Carolina head coach. And the more time goes on, the less likely I think it seems that he will end up being the head coach. Not out of the realm of possibility still. I just figured that if it was going to happen, it would happen after their season ended. And their season's been over now past a week. And there are other candidates that are being interviewed. And some of them are potentially coaching their teams in the College World Series. And we've thrown out a lot of names like, Steve Sabins at West Virginia, Scott Forbes at North Carolina became a name of interest at the end of last week. That was really surprising to me to be able to see that name pop up just because of the success they've had at North Carolina. But I have not seen in terms of reporting names of like this name right here, even though I think this has become more of a storyline, especially in Omaha, right? So Dane on the Firehouse Subs text line weighed in, 803-404-6100. He says, so no baseball coach yet. Is it safe to say that Schnall isn't in the running at this point? Also, you guys have probably been over this before, but is Skylar Meade not on the radar? All I've heard is talk about Schnall, WVU, and Kansas coaches. I don't know if Skylar Meade is a serious contender for this job, but what I do want to say is I think he should be. I think there is some consideration that I think you have to have because of a lot of it because of this run and because he's been really successful at Troy. They may have not have had the same regular seasons as maybe a Coastal Carolina or a Southern Miss, but this run right here I think proves a lot about how he coaches in tournament settings, and he's got that familiarity with the University of South Carolina.
I think Skylar Meade is a post for what people think about this job. Mm-hmm. What do you value in this job? Do you really value somebody who has been in South Carolina, has a South Carolina connection, even though he's a baseball lifer and has been to several different places? He's not of homegrown, but he's been here. Are you somebody who values head coaching experience? He's been able to get that.
Yep.
Are you somebody who values a winner?
College World Series experience, which he will have now.
He will have College World Series experience. Or maybe you're somebody who feels like, they got to get it done at the big boy level before we can have this job. Those are all viable options. You can feel however you want to feel, but I think he fits into a lot of those categories. And with him winning and him doing what he's doing with Troy now, it's becoming more of a story.
Yeah, and I also like his scheduling philosophy, too. Like at a place like Troy, I feel like you have to schedule incredibly tough, and they were able to get in as an at-large into this whole tournament to begin with because they didn't win the Sun Belt regular season, didn't win the tournament, but they were able to get in, and they've made just an absolutely remarkable run. And one of my favorite things about the run, too, they beat Little Rock to get to the Super Regional. They got some bracket luck, and that helps, right? I think that's important context. But I'm old enough to remember just a couple of weeks ago them beating up on Florida in the regional to be able to get to this point, too. Like, they beat a big boy to get to the Super Regionals, and they took care of business against Little Rock in 2 games and left no doubt during those games that they were going to win them. They didn't play around. They didn't play down to the level of Little Rock, who was playing good baseball, but at the end of the day, still, you have an advantage. The reason you're hosting that because you were higher seeded. I've become a lot more open to the idea of him being suitable for this head coaching position, even if I haven't read anything that would indicate that he is a candidate at this point. I think we're all kind of on the same page. We're all reading the same intel that our friends at Gamecock Central or the Big Spur are getting, or John Whittle over at 24/7. And I don't see Skylar Mead's name there as much as I would Steve Saban's or Scott Forbes, even after, this past weekend. I thought that was just a name that was incredibly interesting to pop up. But Skylar Mead, I think, is proving a lot. If anything, he's proving a lot here in this postseason run.
I'll tell you this. I don't know if you've been able to watch some of his press conferences. He'll win the interview.
He'll do a lot of what we want, which is
he's a builder. He's somebody who's going to energize the crowd.
Uh-huh.
He had me thinking, like, I want to cheer for Troy. This is fun.
I am cheering for Troy in the College World Series. A, it's a great story. B, that guy's easy to root for. I mean, I would love to have played the whole thing, but it's like a 6-minute video of his press conference after they got bounced from the Sun Belt tournament, where he was asked whether or not, he believes his team should be in as an at-large. And that's the chance that coaches get in that type of situation to really lobby and sell for their program. And he did it. So he did it the way he convinced me. I'm like, make him a host. I just let him in, let him host. I mean, that he had me convinced. And I think it did a lot of good too, because it got them into the NCAA tournament. They might have been in anyway because they did have a really good resume. But for schools at a mid-major level, sometimes a great resume, Mercer, isn't good enough to get you in over a power conference team that was mediocre, NC State. But he still was able to get in anyway, and now they've made this incredible run, and I can't help but wonder now how much of a candidate would he actually be. Maybe he's not at all. Maybe he is, and it just hasn't gotten out yet.
His name was, as I've said before, his name was bandied about the last time we did this 2 years ago. And it was a little bit too early, I think, at that time. But people were early on that. He obviously made a great impression on people around here. And people were throwing his name around when Paul Maneri was hired. I think it was a little bit too early at that moment for people to accept that. But he's done nothing but fortify their case since then. And so there's some people who were very early on the Skylar Mead train, and he's done nothing but prove them right to this point.
Yeah, and I don't know what the path ahead in the College World Series looks like, but I have a hard time not cheering for Troy in this thing. And there's a good chance, too, if we just want to get to the whole candidacy part of this, that you might have like 3 guys that are legitimately interested in your job that are also coaching in the College World Series. So if it's not going to be Kevin Schnall, if it is one of those guys, I think I would still be incredibly happy with that. I think that would still be a win if the coach that you get coached their last game in Omaha for Kevin Schnall, the season prior, not only was in Omaha, but went to the final series. If those guys are the ones that are in contention here, like we believe it is, then I'm pretty excited about the future of your program.
Yeah, they're all great choices. And to Jen's question earlier, I do think the job still has enough gravity that they're still going to be able to pull solid candidates.
Yeah,
I hope so. I mean, and I totally agree. And honestly, think about all the coaches that you get to hang with. Like, you're surrounding yourself with, with Beamer, and you've got Don. Like, I feel like there's a lot of the head coaches that really support each other. I think there's a good dynamic, and I just feel like, okay, even at that's appealing. Like, hey, I've got a support system here, or it sure looks like it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that makes it even more appealing.
Yep.
But I think the one thing, my favorite part about Skylar Mead is kind of the salesman part, though, too, because I think he could energize. The guy's got a lot of energy, and that it being really young too, I think helps a lot with that. He could be the salesman, the revivalist, the statesman, all the things that we have talked about previously in the weeks leading up to all of this, of what you would like to have in a baseball coach for the program that's in a spot South Carolina's in right now. I think Skylar Mead, if you want to point out that specific trait, he certainly has it. But coming up next, over the weekend, maybe we might have seen the most dizzying super regional that any of us have ever witnessed in our lives. And if you missed it, we'll catch you up on it next here in the early game. Out of all the series that we had for the Super Regionals over the weekend, one of them, Preston Thorne, got silly. And it only made it 2 games. But Georgia-Mississippi State might have been the most dizzying Super Regional 2-game series in the history of college baseball. Maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment here to give that kind of declaration, but I don't know if you can match a lot of what we saw in that series.
So here's where we go, old man versus analytics, except I'll give you the analytics. You're not being a prisoner of the moment because no team has come back down 7 runs. In fact, teams in this situation were 0 and 149 in Super Regionals.
Yep, that has never been done.
So you are not being a prisoner of the moment. You are actually talking about history that happened. They're now 1 and 1. They're now 1 and 150.
Mississippi State can now be the team that gave up the 1. And Georgia almost gave up 1. Maybe not 7 runs, but it was a 7-2 game yesterday. And it ended up going into extra innings where Daniel Jackson hits a home run like he's done a lot this season. That guy's probably the best hitter in college baseball. But here's just a couple of quick hitters from that series. Just, again, 2 games that equated to 19 innings. We had 21 home runs in 19 innings. We're hitting more than a home run each inning. There are 5 big innings in the 2 games.
What's a big inning?
That is an inning with 3 runs or more scored by one team. We had multiple 5+ run comebacks in those 2 games. 56 hits in 19 innings. 45 runs in 19 innings. Oh, yeah. And we got quintessential college baseball, baby. We had 7 errors in those 2 games combined, too. And the games were 13-12 and 11-9. You know the whole thing at Georgia is feed the trees?
Feed the
That's
trees.
their whole thing?
I love it.
Well, we witnessed some gluttony over the weekend with those trees. We're talking some sinful levels of gluttony with those trees out in the outfield in Athens. They were fed all right.
They were.
They will never be famished by any means.
Here's the problem for Mississippi State. This is exactly what Georgia wants to do.
Oh, you played right in their hands.
This is exactly the game they want to play. They want to hit home runs. They want to score a lot of runs. They want to play games in the double digits. That's how they are very comfortable playing that style of baseball. So when Mississippi State was getting into that type of game, it's like, I don't know if you want to get into that game with this crew because that's what they love to do.
That's the dangerous thing about this Georgia team, too, is like if you get into the first 3 or 4 innings of a game, you might run their starting pitcher out of the game. You might have 6 runs and they might have 1. You still can't feel comfortable. Because in any given inning, they can just start launching them out of the ballpark. It's pretty remarkable. And no lead felt safe in that series, which to me is my kind of series. Like, yeah, North Carolina and Southern Cal was a great series. It ended on a game-winning hit late in the game. Poor kid looks like he might have misplayed the ball in the outfield a little bit, like by a step.
They had 2. Because the play before that, the pitch before that, it was a foul ball, and he could have caught it.
Yeah. Oh, the foul ball. He should have caught it.
Should have caught it, right?
Should have caught it. And then that would be it.
Oh.
Brutal. It kind of reminds me of that Arkansas play a few years ago in the College World Series. They're playing, was it Oregon State? Yeah, I think they're playing Adley Rutschman's Oregon State team. And they were up. And I think it was a first baseman or a right fielder. It was kind of shallow right foul ball. And hits the guy's glove, and he just drops it. And then Oklahoma State ends up winning. After that, that would have been, the final out. And for Arkansas baseball, that's probably the most haunting play in that program's history because they were there. They were there. So every time I see a situation like that where somebody drops a pop-up in foul territory and gives somebody another chance, I immediately start thinking, oh, you might have just made the key error.
That's
because
what happened.
Something's going to happen after this. If you don't take care of business right there, something else is going to happen. But that was a remarkable series. Even if it only went 2 games and it was a sweep, that might have been the greatest adrenaline rush you're going to get in college baseball. Maybe the most quintessential college baseball series that you were going to find.
If you needed something that was going to entice you to maybe pay more attention to the College World Series, like, oh man, are all the games like this? Like, I just happened upon these. So, wow, I got to check some more out.
Yeah. Oh, especially just like, I like watching home runs.
Mm-hmm.
I, too, dig the long ball.
It was kind of a home run derby of sorts.
It was.
You know,
It was so cool. I'm telling you, like, I did
21 home runs in 2 games.
21 home runs in 19 innings.
Next inning, another home run. Next inning, another one.
You're on a
There's
remarkable
2.
pace.
Mm-hmm.
If you just watched one inning of that entire series, you probably witnessed a home run. Can't complain.
Mm-mm.
You heard a lot of pings, right? A lot of pinging of the bats. That was as fun as it gets. And I think maybe the best way I can describe that entire series is just dizzying. Georgia wins the first game 13-12. They win the next game 11-9 in 10 innings, and Georgia goes to the College World Series. Ole Miss also punched their ticket too. Field's starting to get set. We have a couple more game 3s that are some weather delays. So hopefully by the end of the day, we will have the full 8-team College World Series picture completed. Coming up next, though, final hour of the show, the early game, third and long hour. We'll discuss the latest on Schnall Watch. Are we still convinced he's coming?
Traffic conditions pretty good out there this morning, and the forecast looks even better. We're looking for a high of 91 today, 87 tomorrow. Might see that afternoon shower rolling in, maybe a storm. And then on Wednesday, 92 for the high when we look ahead 94 Thursday, 96 on Friday. Just getting close to feeling like summer. 72 currently.
The early game third and long hour starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He is Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. Our man Thomas is in the video production room here at Studio 803. And we're still without a South Carolina Gamecock baseball coach. We thought last week might be the week when Coastal Carolina got eliminated from the NCAA tournament following in the Tallahassee Regional and their loss to Florida State. Ending their season might have meant that if Kevin Schnall is going to be the next baseball coach at South Carolina, the coach of Coastal, then it probably would have happened last week. But nothing did. There are reports that came out. David Cloninger from the Post and Courier reported that there are still multiple candidates being interviewed. It leads me to ask the question now that it's Monday and we're going to be having a similar discussion as to whether or not it is Schnall or nothing. Do we still feel that way? I think last week we probably felt if it was going to happen, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe even Friday, we would know something. I do find the timing interesting where we've now gone a week that Coastal Carolina season's been over and nothing has been done on that front. It can tell us many things here, Preston Thorne, without knowing anything. It can tell us that maybe the next baseball coach for South Carolina is preparing their team to play in the College World Series because other names that have been connected to the opening, like Steve Sabins at West Virginia, they punched their ticket to the College World Series. Scott Forbes at North Carolina, they punched their ticket to the College World Series. And who knows, maybe Skylar Meade is a legitimate candidate for this job. And if that's the case, he at Troy also preparing to coach in the College World Series.
Maybe it was a scenario where if a team would have lost, i.e. North Carolina, if North Carolina loses to USC, then maybe we're having another discussion and now the coaching search maybe turns more towards that way. But since they won, now it goes back to Kevin Schnall. The thing is about this is I don't know. I mean, not say we. Maybe somebody out there knows, and maybe there's a lag in information as far as what has happened and what has not happening. But it seems to me as if it was going to be Kevin initially, if that was the guy and he wanted it and we wanted him, there was nothing but air and opportunity between us for the last week. Mm-hmm. And so if nothing happened, let me rephrase that. Something happened.
Yes, because reportedly they did end up having a meeting.
And in a week, something happened. Now, what that was, I don't know. Was an offer made? Was an offer made and rescinded? Were the deal terms not agreed to? Was there somebody else that made their way into the conversation? A lot of things can happen. But for a week, if we were both had our eyes on each other, something should have happened last week. Mm-hmm. That means there's been a development. I just don't know what the development has been.
I think it all kind of comes down to this, Preston Thorne. Whose court is the ball in? Did South Carolina offer and they're just waiting for something from Kevin Schnall? Or is Kevin Schnall interested in South Carolina, says, okay, appreciate the interview. We'll get back to you. The way a lot of just job interviews are in general.
Did he put him through 7 rounds of interviews like current interviews are going in the real job market now? That's another conversation.
7 rounds of interviews.
That's another conversation.
That's exhausting.
Yes. Here's what's unique about this is that typically when the big dog wants you, the big dog gets you.
Uh-huh.
We're the big dog in this situation, so we think, right? Mm-hmm. And so it should be as simple as, hey, you want to get plucked from your little podunk G5 job and come hang with the big boys, right? That's how it typically goes.
That happens in a lot of cases.
Except not in this case. And it's been weird to see us trying to woo someone away from what a lot of people would deem a lesser job. I don't consider it a lesser job. It's a different job. But in the national grand scheme of things, I think people would be like, well, what's the conversation about? But there seems to be a lot of conversation.
And that's why I really want to know. Like, the thing I'd be dying to know the most is how that interview's gone and what does, because clearly South Carolina has interest in Kevin Schnall. I think that's obvious. And anybody in their position would, right? School that's in state, that has had significant baseball success, a guy who coached them to being, 2 games away from winning a national title, awfully intriguing, right? I just want to know I'm so curious to know what they know about the interest in that job with coaches who are still coaching right now in their postseason. It's kind of like, if you want to use the Texas job opening a couple of years ago as an example, they also waited a while to fire Coach Pierce too. They fired it was a lot longer in the game when they fired him, and maybe they were back channeling some things to know, hey, would Schlossnagle be interested in taking this job? If so, they probably knew that ahead of time, made the firing, and then waited until A&M got done. In less than 24 hours after they lost to Tennessee in the College World Series final, that deal got done. I just find that part to be interesting, is how much do they know about the interest with coaches that are still participating right now? Because honestly, if you're Jeremiah Donati and you feel like the best person for this position is still playing and you just don't have a chance to talk to them yet, then I think waiting is worth it. Then I can understand waiting. Being patient is not something I think we as sports fans just want to do in general, because I think we've all been locked in on who this next coach is going to be since the firing of Paul Mainieri happened in mid-March. Waiting a little bit longer starts to feel a little bit more agonizing, even if the end result ultimately ends up being positive.
I guess the difference between maybe this baseball search and football search is typically this doesn't feel like it's a musical chairs game.
No.
Doesn't feel like we're in a rush because we don't want to miss out on a specific candidate. Everybody that we presumably want and that has made themselves available, we will have an opportunity to get. We don't have to worry about them taking another open job.
Right.
So that's why time is still on our side, I believe.
And that's what's so unique about this, too, is because this is still the biggest opening by a long shot, right, in college baseball right now. This is a pretty significant opportunity for any coach, and you just don't have a lot of competition for the best coaches in college baseball right now. College football is a lot different. Like, let's just use this past, hiring cycle in college football. Penn State got out of it, got ahead of it early. So did Virginia Tech, right? And LSU late in the season. Those are 3 pretty nice jobs that opened up before the season ended, right? We had record numbers of buyouts happen.
I like what you're doing with this. Continue.
The coaching market was incredibly competitive, and getting somebody and getting your guy fast was a priority, because if you don't get that guy, somebody else will.
So out of those three, because we're back in football, so we're back to my wheelhouse. Out of those 3, Virginia Tech won.
Yep, I think they upgraded.
Through my gritted teeth, LSU won.
Yeah, I think they upgraded too.
What about Penn State?
That one's very TBD. I like Matt Campbell a lot. Do I think Matt Campbell's going to go in there and they immediately start winning 10 games every year like they did with James Franklin, with last year being the exception? I don't know.
Yeah.
If he does, then you succeeded in it, but that's a tall task.
But my point kind of is that Penn State thought that they were going to be able to go out and pluck whoever they wanted. And through reporting, it doesn't seem like that was the case.
Their coaching search did seem like it was getting pretty discombobulated after a little bit. I mean, what names did we hear thrown around there? Kalen DeBoer as a possible name. You heard, the BYU coach thrown out there, and that one looked like that was almost a done deal until it wasn't.
Until he said no. And that goes back to your public denial, which we haven't had one yet.
The public denial was the sign of the beginning of maybe some dysfunction, right?
And also, public denial doesn't mean that we weren't flirting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that does not mean that there wasn't any prior contact or anything like that.
Yeah, let's be clear. So if there is a public denial, that probably is maybe even more of an indication that there was a lot of serious conversation about it.
Yeah, I think maybe that telltale sign of the coaching search going wrong is the public denial, especially if you get multiple of them. And now you're going down the list, right? I think every AD has a list. And how far you go down it, I think, is kind of the perfect measuring stick of how successful your coaching search was. I've covered some very dysfunctional coaching searches that had a lot of very public denials, and ultimately the candidate who ended up getting hired was definitely not the right person for the job and definitely didn't spark a lot of joy with the fan base.
You don't say.
Because not only are you getting public denials now, that's going longer. I think it can be easy to confuse the search not going well with it just taking a long time to happen. And I will say, to the credit of Jeremiah Donati and a lot of the folks who've been reporting on this, like David Cloninger was on our show several weeks ago and saying, look, this might take a while. We might get into June because whoever is going to be coaching this program could possibly be coaching their team in the College World Series. And I think that's a benefit of having the best open position in the sport, is maybe you do have the luxury of waiting a little bit, even if the current college sports landscape kind of forces you to have to be all in earlier than normal because of the transfer portal and everything else that has gone on, just in the evolutions of college athletics.
I don't know, man. I'm just thinking, I'm just talking, spitballing here, but you just said that, and now I'm thinking, yeah, what's up? If we wanted Kevin and Kevin wanted us, why hasn't this happened yet?
Maybe if Kevin's not your number one. We think we've known that he is, and a lot of the intel and reporting says so, but at the same time, too, you could say something but maybe believe something different, right? You could say, yeah, Kevin's like our leading guy, but if somebody else comes into the picture that you like more, then it's a consideration.
Well, and of course, I'm going to try and remove my ego and be a pro about it, but it's very difficult to hear, like, you're number two.
Right.
So just hold on a second until we get the person that we really want. Let's wait for them to tell us no, and then we'll come back to you. Of course, you're a pro. You understand how things work. You're going to try and remove your ego, but I don't know if you take kindly to that.
Or also, what I think phrasing would matter a lot in that situation, too. Say, hey, we like you a lot. There's other candidates we just want to hear from. And if this job is as big as we say it is, we need to look like we have a lot of interest from the highest, are the best coaches in the game, right? Mm-hmm. We need to make it look like there's a lot of interest. And if it is, that A, says something good about your program, that it's still an attractive destination. And if you're a candidate for it too, you can look at it as, I don't want to be your second option, or this place is as good as it says it is, then I want to compete to get that job. Then maybe it makes you more interested in it. And I think that all boils down to what your human makeup and psychology is.
What I really wonder is, what's the level of coach that's looking at that Coastal job and is like, man, if Kevin leaves, I want that Coastal job so bad.
There might be a lot of coaches that are cheering for that to happen.
Of course they are.
Absolutely.
Of course they are. And that's why coaching searches, because there's a finite number of positions, and everybody's looking at the next one. It's like, man, if he leaves there, I am on it. I am looking for, and then that AD has to make a decision, and then there's going to be domino effects from it. I just wonder who that coach is out there that's thinking, please, Kevin, take that job. Please, Kevin, take that job.
I think it's kind of fun being the first domino, though.
It is.
Something about being the first domino is awfully enticing.
It is.
Especially if you're able to poach a Scott Forbes or a Steve Sabins, because now the West Virginia job would get a lot more interesting, because you saw the atmosphere in Morgantown and the regional and the super regional. That was an awesome atmosphere. I think West Virginia baseball has an elevated profile because of Coach Sabins. So if say that ends up being the guy, and you just wait until that's over, now you conduct more interviews and then a decision's made, well, that becomes a better job opening. Or even like with Coastal too, if Schnall was taking the South Carolina job, that is awfully enticing. I would say that's maybe the best mid-major job in the entire sport. And that's one you might not even have to use as a stepping stone, because they're going to give you what you need to win. Like, to Coastal's credit, they do a phenomenal job of putting in resources that not many schools of I guess, their stature and their place in the grand scheme of college athletics is able to provide. I don't know of how many other mid-major teams that are top 25 in resource allocation, but they're one of them. It's a pretty enticing job. I will say it does feel good for South Carolina to be the first domino kind of in this entire equation. But coming up next, though, Preston Thorne's got notes, and we're going to unload the clip here whenever it comes to Thorns, Buds, and Roses, and that's next year in the early game.
Preston here for AAA Heating and Air. Summer is on the way. The weather will be heating up soon. You know it. You know where you live. You understand how this works. Well, the folks from AAA Heating and Air want to make your home comfort their top priority. Don't wait for the heat to hit. Make sure that your AC is up to task. The expert technicians are ready to get your system in prime condition with thorough seasonal inspection and cleaning. If you want even more peace of mind, ask about the AAA Comfort Club, where members enjoy priority scheduling, flexible visits, and exclusive discounts. Take your comfort to the next level and beat the heat before it hits. Call AAA Heating and Air today at 803-920-3771. That's 803-920-3771.
Have a few areas with some slowdowns, but no accidents really impacting traffic this morning. And your forecast, going to see a mix of clouds and sun today, 91 for the high. Isolated late afternoon storm tomorrow is possible, 87 for the high. And then some clouds for the next few days in the middle part of the week, but our high is reaching 92 and 94. And right now, it's warming up, 75.
A busy sports weekend means plenty of accolades to get to. With that being said, it's time to introduce our friends at Outcast for Thorns, Buds, and Roses.
It's time for Thorns, Buds, and Roses with Preston Thorne on the early game, 107.5 The Game.
All right, Elijah, a lot of things happening over the weekend. The sports calendar is coming towards an end. You know, you have these events happening. You're going to Omaha. You're going to the Super Regionals. And that's where I want to start with my biggest thorn. Super Regionals. I saw a dude with a pair of New Balances tied to his head as a rally a rally symbol.
I've never heard of the rally shoe.
A rally shoe. I saw a group of fans in West Virginia, arm in arm, singing Country Roads. I saw the folks in Troy losing their absolute minds at winning a game. And you know what else I saw? I drove down Hugie Street, right by Founders. Nothing. Pin drop, construction, empty, weeds growing in the parking lot. Nothing happening. And it just got on my nerves that everybody else is getting to have all this fun during Super Regionals except us. We're not even close. We're in the midst of a coaching search. We want this thing to happen. But it looked like so much fun in all of the places that you've seen around the country. Everywhere. UNC, Chapel Hill, Kansas. All these places are having so much fun, except one of the places where we rightfully feel like it should be happening here. We got to get back to the time where we were hosting and having Super Regionals here. That being said, buds, either something is growing or something is being nipped. After a week, is it time to nip the schnaw watch in the bud? I don't know. Or after a week, has the Skylar Meade bud started to grow with a trip to Omaha? Is something happening there? Also, Scott Forbes. Now, here's what I don't know, Elijah, and you can answer it here. Are all third base coaches required to wear the helmet?
I think they are.
Okay. It just looks very funny on Scott Forbes. I don't know what it is about his.
I think just being, even if you're not playing in the infield, if you're just coaching like first base or third base, even if it is a requirement, the hard helmet on the field just gives too much John Olerud.
It's a bad look. It's not a great look. We got to figure something else about that baseball. That's not a great look. But
give him a football helmet.
But we are in a coaching search, and Skylar Meade's name has budded in this process. Maybe it will blossom. We'll see what happens in Omaha because they will be going. Scott Forbes will be going also. Steve Sabins will be going also. Okay?
They crushed Cal Poly.
We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Last but not least, we need 5 roses for the 5 boroughs of New York City. I was perusing the social medias and I saw several neighborhood watch parties for the Knicks. Various parts of the city, folks coming out, watching because there's no space. They can't watch it in their homes. Everybody lives in a 1-bedroom somewhere.
In a shoebox.
Yeah, everybody lives in a shoebox. So they all came out of their shoeboxes and they were watching it on the stoops, on the sidewalks. And it was really fun to think about that community as a city maybe having a moment that they haven't had in 53 years, since 1973. So the Knicks are up 2-0. They have a chance to do either an amazing thing. Either something amazing for or against the city. We do not know yet, but Five Roses right now, either in celebration or mourning for this feeling right now for the city of New York. Elijah, those are our thorns, buds, and roses.
That's why sports is so cool, man. That's why it's the best. Like, the atmospheres in the super regionals were incredible. Imagine like being a fan of, Troy athletics. You're not playing like big time college football. Your football is defined by whether or not you win your conference and you get a lot of money to go get beaten up at an SEC school early in the season. Basketball, it's, if you can get to the NCAA tournament, that's the goal, and those are some really cool highs there too. But to be able to host games with a College World Series on the line, when's that opportunity going to come to you again? Like, it took some bracket luck for that to be the case because they drew Arkansas Little Rock. They were a higher seed, and they got to host it. Something they may never get to experience again. Like, truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and they went all out. West Virginia has been awesome. There are almost more people watching the game outside the stadium looking into it than people that were in the stadium itself. It was an awesome environment. And then with, like, the NBA Finals, too, with it being in New York, it being such a starved fan base, how excited everybody is. Also, LOL, the Brooklyn Nets, nobody cares about.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Brooklyn's
they might as
more
well
invested.
move the franchise.
They probably should.
Some city might appreciate you because will forever be second fiddle.
Yes, no matter how.
You might have been better off staying in New Jersey and letting the Jersey folks have their team, but another basketball team in New York, it's not happening.
No, and the way that town's getting up for that series too is awesome, and it's going to be an insane environment.
I saw a picture of the rapper Fabulous sitting next to Jimmy Fallon courtside, and they were arm in arm watching the Knicks, and it was like, what is happening here? We've seen I saw Fat Joe
crash the TV set.
I saw Fat Joe embracing Timothy Chalamet.
In no other context would I ever imagine you guys hanging out.
Except their genuine love for the Knicks. And this is a genuine thing. These are not bad. And that's why it's a little bit different in L.A., right? L.A. fans, they're there for the superstardom, and they're there for kind of to be on the court. Jack Nicklaus, we know he's a fan. But everybody's just kind of watching that game.
Yeah.
The Knicks fans are living and dying for this thing to happen. From the celebrities to the folks who live in the shoebox, they are all equally Knicks fans, and I think that's awesome.
What is that city going to look like if they win the NBA title?
I think they're going to be all right. I think New Yorkers know how to have I don't think they'll do like Philly. Sorry, Philly. But I think it'll be, because here's the thing with people underestimated out of New York. In order for there to be that many people, they have to understand how to operate with each other. It's too tight and too many for me, personally. But
I think claustrophobic.
The thing they always say about New Yorkers is they're a nice one-to-one. In person. Like, they're not nice to everybody, but they're nice to you.
Yes.
And I think it'll end up working out really well for them, but we will see.
It's one of those things where I don't really care much about watching a championship parade on TV. I would definitely do it out of curiosity. Just to see how wild the scene is. Because again, they are that starved for it. Which I think is the perfect segue into what the early game third and long goes deep series this week is. The drought killers, the curse breakers, right? If you believe in the chicken curse, this can apply to South Carolina athletics too, especially with the streak that South Carolina men's athletics has had here for the last couple of years. But part one today, the ghosts, the curses themselves. What's the psychology involved in cheering for a team that has a long title drought? Well, we'll discuss some of the historic examples coming up next year on the early game. Russ on the text line says, "Hey Preston, I met Fat Joe before."
Power Equipment. Kato's Power Equipment has been family-owned and serving the Midlands since 1983. It's over 40 years. And third-generation owner Ben Cato provides top-notch service, great deals, and the mom-and-pop values that you love. Ben is determined to raise the standard of sales, service, and retail. At Cato's, they're proud to offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, the friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, keep your gear running strong with expert service and parts. Whether you're a weekend warrior, a seasoned landscaping pro, Cato's has you covered. So swing by Cato's Power Equipment today or call them at 803-254-3711. That's Cato's Power Equipment at 803-254-3711.
No accidents at this time, and a summer-like forecast on the way. Looking for high today, 91 with some clouds. Tomorrow, 87 for the high with some isolated afternoon or evening thunderstorms. And come Wednesday, we're looking for a high of 92. And we'll just kind of keep creeping up a couple degrees each day. So it's going to be in the mid to upper 90s by the end of the week. 75 currently on 107.5 The Game.
This week, the early game third and long hour goes deep. We're talking about the drought killers in sports, partially inspired by the New York Knicks, potentially breaking a 53-year championship drought. And with South Carolina baseball now having a pretty extended Omaha drought, the football team hasn't gone to the SEC championship game since, 2010? It's the 2010 season. It's been a while. Those are certain droughts, right?
So let's start right there.
Yes.
At what year do we consider it a drought? Are we going with Napoleon rules here, or are we going 10 plus? When does drought start?
I'll serve Napoleon rules for dynasties.
Dynasties, okay.
Yeah.
Because they have to get back. So
yes.
So good. So we're on drought watch with the Knicks and Napoleon watch with the Spurs.
Yes. I think we've definitely surpassed Napoleon rule for the Spurs. You know, in pro sports, a little different. Napoleon rule probably best suited for college sports. And for those who don't know, like Napoleon's first exile lasted 7 years before he eventually came back and did his thing. College sports, I would say, for doing Napoleon rule, if you've been dominating the sport for a while and then you go on a drought of 7 years or more, I think then maybe we can have the you're washed conversation. Doesn't mean you still can't come back, but the likelihood probably decreases at that point that you maybe settle into something more normal and not dominant. But with the Knicks, it's been, again, 5+ decades of not winning a title. Gone a couple times, but not won it. Looking back at other like historic droughts and the drought killers right now, like today I wanted to focus on maybe the ghosts of it, like the psychology involved with cheering for a team that has not reached the mountaintop in a long time, right? Something like the Cubs. Jen Jensen knows all about this, cheering for a team that went, over 100 years without winning a World Series title, where it absolutely became a thing. Or if you were a Boston Red Sox fan in the early 2000s, where your streak was reaching close to a century without winning a title. It's always fascinating to me to look into the psychology of just like those franchises, those programs, those fans, because your history is checkered maybe at best, but also your ghosts are so much more prevalent. Like, for example, do you think Cubs fans hated Steve Bartman more than they loved Ryan Sandberg? I think so. Your villains are more hated than your heroes are loved.
Absolutely.
Because you're deprived of something. For the Red Sox, do you think Bucky Dent was hated more than Hall of Famer and perennial All-Star Jim Rice was loved? Probably. Or Bill Buckner, as good as he was in his career, probably hated because of that one play hit by South Carolina legend Mookie Wilson. Probably hated more than guys like Manny Ramirez or Pedro Martinez were loved.
It was not way until the postscript of my sports watching life that I even found out Bill Buckner was good.
Oh, because your first introduction to him as a child is, oh, this guy is...
He stinks.
He stinks.
He makes errors all the time. He must be terrible.
Not the case.
That wasn't the case.
No, he was really good. But for that fan base, he was hated more than he was loved and appreciated for like what he did in a Red Sox uniform outside of that one play.
Also, there's something with both of those, with Bartman and Buckner, that yes, they were bad plays, but they weren't the end-all be-alls.
No.
Both teams had opportunities to just rectify the situation and win, but it gives those fan bases something to hold on to.
Because in a long line of things to hold on to. Right? Like, you think even in South Carolina sports, how many of those do you think, like we have, where maybe the villain is more hated than maybe some of the local heroes are appreciated because it felt like it kept you from something? Like the Marquez North catch in the Tennessee-South Carolina game. And a year you go 10-2. And that game is what kept you from playing in an SEC title. No one knows that guy for anything more than just that play. And I think from just discussing that play with people that are Gamecock fans, lifelong Gamecock fans, there's an immediate eye roll, right? There's almost more disdain for it than it is your positive history. And I think a drought is what causes that. You can brush it off if you've won championships since then. Yeah, it might suck, but that's not, you could brush it off because you have so many more triumphant championship memories to kind of harken back to. But the first thing I thought of when going through this whole exercise was your heroes definitely maybe aren't as beloved as the hatred exists that is for the things that kept you from winning those championships.
Well, I think the thing about cheering for a team that's long-suffering, that's in a drought, is that we want to commiserate. It's fun to complain with people.
It is.
It's fun to be miserable with your friends. That's kind of like, that's what the fun is. It's fun to win. That's awesome. And that'll last for a little while. But the time period in between when you all get to be miserable together, I think that's sort of the essence of fandom.
Shared misery.
It really is. And is it a drought if you've never won?
That's a great point.
Like the Cleveland Browns.
Not in drought.
Not a drought because they've never done it.
Just
Detroit
long-suffering.
Lions.
The Cleveland Browns have come close. I think, and there's another aspect of that too, where you have to have come close. You have to have, Cleveland Brown obviously has like the drive and the fumble, and there's a couple of things that have happened where they could say, man, if we just would have made this one play, our whole lives as Cleveland Browns fans would be totally different. And so I do think there is something to that idea. But I firmly believe that the basis of fandom is we can all be miserable together.
Yeah, and it's a shared experience.
And now when we do get a glimpse of winning, we can all revel in this shared feeling of, oh, yeah, I was there when Chris Dudley was the power forward. Whatever.
I was a fan whenever this was really bad.
And I think that's a lot of what's happening in New York right now. It's like,
for sure.
We were all here. We were all fans when we were terrible. We were wandering off in the desert. We had no idea what we were doing. Isaiah Thomas was our head coach, whatever. And now we all get to revel in this great, awesome feeling. I think that's the essence of fandom.
And then also, once you get to a certain spot in like the playoffs, or you get closer to that championship that's eluded you. Like, I want to use the Buffalo Bills, for example. The here we go again is palpable through like a television, right? Bills went to 4 Super Bowls in the early 90s, lost all 4. They were victims of the Music City Miracle, right? In another playoff game. They have this transcendent quarterback in Josh Allen who becomes an MVP and ends up costing them this last playoff game in a championship window that seems like it's closing faster and faster by the minute. The Bills can be successful, but with that franchise, it gets to playoff season, and it's like, oh, boy, here we go. You might not be able to enjoy it. Like, it was fun for them when they first got back to the playoffs after having a long playoff drought. Remember when Tyrod Taylor took them to the playoffs? They lost in Jacksonville, but they got back to the playoffs, and it was fun. It's not fun anymore because now you're getting constantly reminded of the shortcomings. Scott Norwood's missed kick in the first Super Bowl they played in, the 4 falls of Buffalo, the Music City Miracle, Josh Allen having that ridiculous turnover at the end of the first half of the Broncos playoff game. The here we go again, and that anxiety that rides with it. Shared experience, but also comes with the territory of being good again because you almost don't feel like you can do it because it hasn't happened to you before. Find that part fascinating. Out of all of this, like, there is a shared psychology of all the fans of that team once you get to a certain point of immediate doubt because you've just seen it go the other way so many times.
Well, here's the thing. Knicks fans haven't really seen it go the other way because they've been that bad.
Right.
They've gone from terrible to competent to now a really solid organization. We've seen the steps that they've taken, but they don't really have a here we go again for the last, 20 years.
The closest thing was Tyrese Halliburton recreating Reggie Miller's choke at MSG last year.
That was so
We
good.
had a weird full circle moment with Reggie Miller on the call.
That was
looks
so
over
good.
there,
That was so good.
gives the choking sign.
They had to suffer through that last year.
They did. That might have been the peak. That might have been the peak of their suffering before that. And then if they win it this year, it all pays off. That would be a winner for them. We have winners for today's show we'll get to next, brought to you by the Golden Spur here in the early game. today's show brought to you by the Golden Spur. And I think the first winner I have for today, Preston Thorne, environments.
Yes.
Great weekend for environments. And, of course, what you're going to see at Madison Square Garden tonight at 8:30 is going to be
Madhouse.
a madhouse for the NBA Finals. But the Super Regionals were fantastic. I think it might have been at Auburn, the Ole Miss Auburn series, where I saw one of the tallest empty beer can towers I have ever seen in my life. But that even pales in comparison to what you saw in Morgantown, West Virginia, when West Virginia punched their ticket to the College World Series over Cal Poly, and then a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for fans of Troy's baseball program to get to pack that house for their team to play for a trip to Omaha. That was a remarkable scene over there in the two games that they played because Troy took care of business. But environments really stole the show, I think, in the sports world this weekend with what you've seen in, the NBA Finals and with the Super Regionals.
Well, part of that madhouse is going to be Celebrity Row with the New York Knicks, and that's where my winner is going to go to Joseph Cartagena, otherwise known as Fat Joe, a man who has had a 35-plus year career being absolutely a middle-of-the-road rapper. Nobody in the world would ever say that Fat Joe is their favorite rapper.
No.
He is just a personality who has managed to succeed in entertainment by just being a force of nature.
Likeable.
Just a likable guy.
Being likable.
Just being a likable guy for 35 years of just being a likable dude.
And on the Firehouse Subs text line, Preston Thorne, we have proof of concept of Fat Joe's likability because our pal Russ texted in. He said, "Hey, Preston, I met Fat Joe before at a car dealership in Greenwich, Connecticut. I used to haul Highline cars in an enclosed trailer. I was up there picking up a Bentley, and he was there getting his Bentley serviced. He was super nice."
Just 35 years of just being a nice dude.
Good dude.
Good dude, a good hang, great storyteller, awesome TV appearances. And this has been 35 years of this.
If you can make your stage name something like derogatory towards your appearance, I respect you immensely. You have earned my respect forever.
Fat Joe, man, he's been here for 35 years. It is
doing it
wild.
He's been doing it.
Still here.
New York staple. Another winner of today's show, Dave DeBuscher. Just wanted to shout out because we the spirit of guys naming dudes took over.
It hit.
And the first name that popped up was Dave DeBuscher. And I had to do the thing is he still with us?
Yes.
Because I was like, would he be in the crowd? No, unfortunately not. But Dave DeBuscher, underrated part of that 70s Knicks championship.
Good squad. All the names that we came up with. Shout out to Senator Bill Bradley, the first person that I knew of to be a Rhodes Scholar. I also thought it was a Rhodes Scholar. Didn't know till a little bit later on that this was the actual place of very high integrity and studies. I just knew that he was a Rhodes Scholar, and that's the only thing I could connect that award to until Myron Rolle came along.
Myron Rolle, also winner, Rhodes Scholar. But the Rhodes Scholar you were originally thinking of as someone, we could consider like my dad, winner, Frank Campbell Jr., Rhodes Scholar, but R-O-A-D. He worked for the Tennessee Department of Transportation for almost 40 years.
That's the only thing I didn't know. I was
working on roads.
Had no idea what it was.
Man was a scholar of the roads we drive on.
Scholar of the roads, yep.
So the Rhodes Scholarship. Also, big winner, R-O-A-D and R-H-O-D.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. A lot of winners right there, too. Another winner for the show, dizzying sporting events, because there were two events this weekend that I could only describe as just being dizzying, right? The Georgia-Mississippi State series, which, again, I tallied it up. 56 hits, 45 runs, 21 home runs in 19 innings, a 13-12 game, an 11-9 game in extras, multiple 5+ run comebacks in that series. Yeah, it was only 2 games, so you didn't get like a dramatic game 3, but the 2 games that were played, incredibly dramatic and a lot of home runs. They feed the trees in Athens, and those trees were gluttonous over the weekend. It was remarkable seeing that, and game 3 of the Stanley Cup final, where the Knights had a 4-0 lead. Mitch Marner had a hat trick in the second period alone. Had a hat trick in like a 5-minute stretch. It was remarkable. And then in the next period, the Hurricanes score 3 goals in a minute of game time before tying it up in the final 2 minutes of the game. And then it goes to double overtime. Just an incredible display of dizzying playoff performances.
You sign up for this when the playoffs start coming around, right? You know there's going to be some wild games. And I think the thing that's most underrated about the Knicks being 2-0, being up 2-0, is that it didn't have to happen. They're one bucket away from this thing at least being tied up and maybe even down.
Because the score in game 1's a little misleading. Like, it got out of hand the last minute or so, but that was a game going into the final 2 minutes, which is why, to me, I'm not penciling them in to be the NBA champs yet. Winner, Kevin Millar games. Don't let them win tonight. Don't let them get it tonight, because if you do, Lemon Booty's going to be a winner for game 4 in that very same arena. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry, they're winners, though. They're next.